Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I'm having a bit of a problem. See, I a little bit want to build a little timer for me for when I'm streaming, and I a little bit want to make a tutorial about when I'm doing that, but explain it in like pretty good detail. And then that's just kind of fun for me too, like hanging out a little bit, but then also I'm building something, and that like a little bit sounds like a kind of fun. The issue though is I do not feel like trying very hard. So I don't know, because when you try really hard, you have to like script something and you have to think about it really hard, and I'm not really in the mood for that. So I'm gonna build a button, and we're just gonna kind of go from there, and I'll talk you through all of the processes. So it might take a while, but maybe we'll get something out of it because it's not only like a tutorial situation. It's just I'm gonna build something, and I'm gonna take you along for the journey, and let's see how it goes. And so up first, I'm going to do something a little frustrating, is I'm using a different camera than I normally do, so I don't know how to render the private UI. So you can't see what I'm going to see, but I'm just going to tell you where it is. Because I'm going to use a button that already exists, and I could spawn a button, but I want to use one that already exists. So inside Resonite Essentials, you can go to main inventory directory or whatever, go to Resonite Essentials, and then examples, and then UIX, and then UI presets. And then that's a folder that has a bunch of like, it's got a little slider bar and a little icon button. And the one that I want in here is labeled button, which I just spawned out of there. And this is something that I wanted forever ago. And just a lot of these other little, just kind of like UI elements that are 100% buried in the middle of nowhere. And so now you know where those are. This is labeled button, and it works when I like smack it, I'm pretty sure. But then also you can press it. And we're going to work with this button for a little bit, and we'll use some of these other elements later. So if you want some default UI elements, that's where they are. But good luck trying to remember where that is, because holy cow, it took me forever to find that. And up first, I'm going to show you the way most buttons operate. It's a very simple and common way to set up buttons. And it's not what I'm going to use, actually, and we'll talk about that. We will talk about that. Don't worry about it. But here's like the very simple first way that you would typically use a button to do things. So I'm just going to spin you around real quick so you can see what I see. Something kind of like that. Yeah, something kind of like that. Don't mind the Flux in the background. We browse nodes, and inside of nodes, interaction, button events. And you just throw that aside, and you spawn your button events. And now let's go back to where we were. But the thing with that is I don't even have camera pins set up. I don't actually really know how to do that, and like we said, I'm not trying very hard right now, not even a little bit. So just the framing of here is whatever, and that's just what we're doing today. And I moved some things around. This is going to be impossible for me to work with. I'm just not a very smart man sometimes. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what we do from here. But anyway, I changed this so that you can see what I see. Hopefully this all turns out okay. Again, we're not trying very hard. So we're going to open up our button. And the only thing with this is it's going to pull up, because this is like the default button. It's like a UI example button. And so we have to go to labeled button L. No, where is it? Oh, what have I done? All right, and then where do you see? I don't know how well you see me. I have no idea how well this is going to turn out at all. Probably it's not going to turn out whatsoever. So here, this is so silly. This is so silly. So this is this is something important to know sometimes, is when you're working with other things, like this UI button that someone made, you're going to have to figure out where like the components are. And right now we want to find out where the button is inside of this object that someone else already made. It's under labeled button element in this instance. And if you click on it to highlight it, you will see that that is where our button, that's where that is, and this is what we want. And so, what we typically do is you simply grab our button component using the grippies on the controller and drop it into the slot. And now that has connected this ProtoFlux node to this button component. And that's important to remember too. It's the component on the slot that turns the slot into a button. And what we've done here is that component called button is attached to this Flux node called button event. And now let's trade out my tip. Don't take that out of context. Anyway, now that I've got the right thing equipped, all we're going to do is pull out this thing that called pressed, which is your index, your like trigger button, I guess. And then click in on your thumbstick, and those are quest controls. And so now this just says pressed, and you have the call. So if we've done our math correctly, you press the button called label, and then it does a thing. This is a very common way. Oop. Oh, we have a friend. Oh god, I am so sorry. Oops. I am very sorry about crapping your thing.
Oh, good.
And so, once again, I have no idea how any of the footage I just filmed has turned out. We're not trying very hard in this video, we have to remember. So typically what people do is you click the button after you've combined this button component and you dropped it into this bottom little slot on the button events. So button events understands when that one exact button is pressed, it's going to do stuff. And it has lots of options here. Let's bring you up closer so you can see some of the options. It has options. That's just, congratulations, it has options. And it very much works. That's pretty cool, and that's how most people set up most buttons, because in most instances, when buttons do things, this makes absolute sense. However, I'm going to set things up a little bit differently, and I just now realized that that means that this video's probably going to be shorter, and this is just going to be a series about my button system or whatever, because this is just the typical way to do a basic button. And the button component, by the way, you can absolutely make anything can be a button, and I guess I'll just show you that real quick too. And it's time to do something I have never done in my entire life. I'm going to see if I can take this proto Flux, like just this thing, this inspector window, maybe I can turn this into a button. I have no idea if that's going to work. Probably not, but it might. I keep looking at me in the viewfinder, by the way, because I'm very handsome, but the center of the camera is right there. So that's just something that I wanted to give you honesty in the middle of the button video. Boop-a-doop, inspect the thing. Open inspector on the thing. So this thing is called Node Browser. If this works, I'll be very pleased. I will be so pleased. And then at the bottom here, somewhere, we're going to attach component. Component list. That is under transform. Interaction. And just kidding, I got that wrong. That is under common UI. Button interaction. So this is all part of working with components and a lot of Flux. Let's get to it. Under transform interaction, there's a thing called physical button. Under common UI, button interactions, there's tons and tons of button things. And the thing I want is under UIX interaction, there's button, which is button stuff is all over the place. So we're going to take a break, and I'll tell you how to find all of this stuff in the way that makes sense to me, and now we'll keep on with the quest once I'm done with that. And I'm just going to mess up my framing of the camera all over the place. This is Ukilop's component searcher, and I've talked about that in a video before. And it's not 100% the best all of the time, but it does work really well for this exact purpose. Because if you're not following along with a tutorial like this, and this is not a tutorial, this is just a guy's making a button and talking to the camera, you know? But if you're on your own and you're like, gosh, I want to make a button, and either no one's available or I don't want to reach out for help or whatever, you just want to figure it out on your own and be strong and independent, I like Ukilop's component searcher because we're going to search for button and see what happens.
What do you call fruit loops made by Resonite? A fruit loop? We don't have any fruit loops.
Wahoo! Because earlier, just now, you saw me looking for button stuff in the component window, and there's so many places where button is. But Ukilop not only found all of those for me, but showed me where they were nested a little bit. Bring that closer to you, scoop me in, and bring all of it closer to us. I'm such a cinematographer. So we've got, under button interactions, and it's got a big list of items, and button toggle might be useful for me to know about. Media, you can do buttons for things, and I didn't even know about that, because there's been times that when you press a button, if it plays something, that's probably pretty useful to be able to do all that in just a single component. And then you've got one under transform, and then one under UIX, you've got legacy, physical button, and honestly what you're going to have to do in a lot of times when you're on your own is work with some of these different components and figure out on yourself how the different buttons work. That is like future stuff. That's like advanced level being panicked and confused about Resonite. But I happen to like Ukilop's component searcher a lot because I already, even me, just know a lot more about where buttons are, and trying to figure all this out on my own melts my brain because button stuff is all over the place. So I recommend Ukilop's component searcher, and we're going to try doing UIX interaction button, since that's just the one that just says button, because I want to turn something that should not be a button and see if I can turn it into a button just to see if it works or not. But then we're going to actually move on to what I meant to talk about in the first place. Okay, I'm just going to go back ahead to how I had this before. I don't know if this will work at all, but we are not trying very hard these days, because when I try very hard, my head like short circuits and I get all over the place and I just turn into a little nightmare man and I freak out and I was like, oh gosh, what am I doing? So that's just this. This is what we're doing now. So we're gonna start over from where we were after we went on that little tour. So we've got the button events thing, which is how most buttons work, and then we've got this thing, which should not be a button. It is not meant to be a button. This is not even close to a button. This doesn't even look like a button. So we'll try out. This is just like a protoflux node window. So this is like whatever. This doesn't matter. Select it. Open inspector on node browser, which should not be a button. Attach component. And remember, we found in Ukilop's component searcher that we're going to go to UIX interaction button. And we're just going to kind of make sure that it works. So we're going to go at the very bottom where we added button. Here, let's bring this closer. So here we've got button, and it's on this thing. And when we click on it, you can see it has an in-press toggle. It works. And it has is hovering thing, and that works. Then over here, we've got our button events thing again. So we'll bring this on closer. I did not plan this out at all. We're going to grab this button component with our grippy. We're going to drop it in the button slot on the button events thing. And we still have pulse. So let's click it. So this thing, which should not be a button, all I had to do was add the button component, because in Resonite, basically everything in your inspector window is just kind of like a slot is what it's called, and you add components to slots to adjust what they do and give slots different properties. So no matter what you select, and I just made a node browser, and this is like a weird thing to turn into a button, but I can add the component button, and now that slot is interacted like it has a button thing. This makes me think that I could turn me into a button. And if you clicked on me, I don't know, I don't want to be a button. But I'm pretty sure I could. Nothing's stopping me because I can do anything I want. We're going to go back to me now. And I'll just kind of spin this around so you can see all of my mess. Never mind Flux in the background and my new friend who's doing his own camera work and stuff. And I'm going to deselect all, because otherwise there would be little crossy lines, and me, when I'm presenting the end of the video, I don't want crossy lines. I'm such a pretty boy. So what I really wanted to do today was, first of all, not try very hard, and I succeeded at that right now. Are you kidding me? I tried so little. It's actually just super duper remarkable, insane how little I tried and how much fun we had along the journey. We talked a little bit about slots, which I didn't even expect to be doing, and how the components work, and how to like kind of work on your own if you either don't have anyone to ask for help. And this goes faster if you have someone you can ask for help. But if you want to figure things out on your own, or you kind of have to, or whatever, that's how I typically find my information. So I'm not only confused on my own. I have information about buttons are all over the place, and then I can get confused. But it helps a little bit. We turned something that should not be a button into a button, and we described this node, which is button events, which is how most people make buttons. Most buttons use button events because whatever component you've made that is like a button, whichever slot you've chosen that you added the button component to turn that slot and give it the button behaviors, and then you give that behaviors, that component called button, and you attach it here. So this is listening to that button, like that's what this is talking to. You press that button or any one of these other commands. A lot of times, actually, and fun fact, common design element is to do on released. And that's pretty common. If you think about it, a lot of times you go to like a website or a phone, you can like hold a thing, and if you're like, oh, actually, just kidding, I don't like that button, you can like kind of swoop off of the button and then like let go of your finger and not actually press the button. So a lot of times, actually, you'll want to do released, is that just kind of feels better for like a UI situation. Pressed is what makes the most sense as a human, but released actually works pretty well for design flow, so now you know that as well. And once again, that is just how so many buttons are going to work in Resonite, in your builds. One button does one thing. This is that button that does this thing. It's, pretty simple. This is the best button in all of the land. I love this button so much. So in the next video of this series, though, I'm going to show you the alternate way that I like doing buttons. It works differently for different reasons, has different applications. Some of that is going to touch into design philosophy, because if you're doing something kind of complex, then you might want things that have a little bit more of a complex interaction and business and stuff. So all we did today really was pretty basic stuff. Just talk about like the button thing and some of how things can connect. And if that was confusing, that's okay, because I'm confused all of the time. So that's just like the video that I did not want to try very hard to make, as I just wanted to make a video, and so I did. I hope you liked the video where I was talking about the button events and components about buttons and Ukilop's searcher and stuff. And now look at the resonance that has been in the background. It's been such a good vibe while I've been working. That's going to be it though. Okay, bye guys.